care to think about. You have to think about them. This is the practice of non-thinking. When you drink your tea, and if you are lost in your thinking, well, that's not true tea drinking. You are not real, and the tea is not real. That is why non-thinking is a very important practice. You become fully present. Mindfulness is the kind of energy that helps you to be aware of what is going on. What is going on is that you are drinking your tea. And you can drink your tea in perfect mindfulness and concentration, and in that moment, life is real, life is possible. And if you allow yourself to be pulled away by the past or pulled away by the future, you are not there for your tea. And therefore, it's very important to touch life deeply, and thinking may be an obstacle. I do not deny that thinking is very important in our life, but there is a productive thinking. If you are not capable of living our moments of our daily life deeply, we cannot touch reality deeply, and our thinking cannot be very productive. I used to enjoy walking meditation before I give a talk. During the time I walk to the Dharma hall for giving a talk, I do not think about my talk. I just enjoy every step I make. And that is why when the time comes for the talk is good. Because the time of non-talking is the very good foundation for the time of talking. It's very important to go home to ourselves and recognize the pain, the sorrow, the fear, the anger in ourselves in order to bring a relief. The energy of mindfulness and concentration help us to go home to ourselves without the fear of being overwhelmed by these negative energies. Many of us in our society are afraid of going home to ourselves because we are afraid of being overwhelmed by the amount of fear, loneliness, anger in us. That is why we seek to cover up these blocks of suffering by consuming. We consume television, we consume other things. And it is possible to go home and not to be overwhelmed by our pain just by the energy of mindful breathing, mindful walking. With the energy of mindfulness, we can very well recognize the pain and embrace it tenderly, like a mother whose baby is crying. When the baby cries, the mother would stop everything she does and goes to the room of the baby and pick the baby up and hold the baby tenderly into her arms. The energy of the mother will penetrate into the baby, and the baby get a relief. The same thing happens when we know how to recognize and embrace the pain, the sorrow, the fear within. With the energy of mindfulness, we can bring a relief. And if you continue to hold our pain, our sorrow, our fear with the energy of mindfulness, we will be able to recognize the roots of our afflictions, our suffering. And with the energy of mindfulness, we can also recognize the suffering in the person we love. And if the person we love says something and does something out of her or his suffering, we would understand that she or he is the victim of her own suffering. She does not know, he does not know how to handle the suffering in him or in her. That is why he has to suffer, and you have to suffer with him or with her. So that kind of awareness helps you not to be angry at him or at her. Instead, you want to do something to help him or her to transform the suffering in him or in her, just like you have done. And the practice of deep listening, the practice of using loving speech help you to restore communication with the other person. The other person has a lot of suffering in him or in her. And maybe you have been very busy. She has not had a chance to be listened to. That is why to have the time to sit down and listen to him or to her with compassion is a very healing process. During the time of listening, we have to be aware that listening like this is to give him or her a chance to empty his heart. And if you can keep your compassion alive during that time, and then even if what the other person says is full of wrong perceptions, accusations, bitterness, that will not touch off irritation and anger in you, because you are protected by the energy of compassion in you. Listening in order to help the other person to suffer less. And when you communicate with the kind of language that does not have the element of anger, of irritation in it. So to help the other person to understand the difficulties you have, the suffering you have, and using these kind of tools, we can restore communication. We can help each other remove wrong perceptions in themselves and in us. Because anger, hatred, fear, violence, all these energies come from wrong perceptions. The other person may have wrong perceptions on himself and on us. And we may have wrong perception on us and on him or on her. And that resulted in a lot of anger, mistrust, suspicion, hate, and terrorism. And to remove wrong perceptions, you cannot do it by punishment. You have to do it with the tools of deep listening, compassionate listening, and loving speech. And it is possible to bring harmony and peace and happiness to our family with the practice of deep listening, compassionate listening, and loving speech. And our community can become a community of understanding and compassion also if members of our community know how to practice deep listening and loving speech. When I was in India a number of years ago, I spoke to Mr. Narayanan, who was chairman of the Indian Parliament, about the practice of deep listening and compassionate dialogue in the National Assembly. He listened very deeply. I said that the National Assembly can become a community with a lot of mutual understanding and compassion. When you represent the people, you are expected by the people to offer the best of your insight, of your understanding, of your compassion, so that the Congress, the National Assembly, can have the kind of collective insight, the best kind of insight that will be the foundation of decisions that will be profiting to the nation and the people.